The viewing port stretched 15 meters across, showing nothing but stars and the slow rotation of distant galaxies. Liam pressed his forehead against the cool glass and wondered if anyone back on Earth could see the massive alien ship from their telescopes. Probably not. The Harmony's light was parked way beyond the moon, and his parents had explained that most of humanity didn't even know this meeting was happening yet. "Stop fidgeting," his mother whispered, adjusting his collar for the third time. Dr. Sophie Chen had been nervous for days, constantly checking her presentations and running through scenarios. His father stood nearby, looking uncomfortable in formal diplomatic robes that humanity had apparently invented just for this occasion. Behind them, in a specialized carrier that cost more than their house, Brutus shuffled around and made annoyed huffing sounds. The honey badger hated being confined, but the alien species called the Vryn had very specific rules about bringing animals aboard their ships. According to their message, all creatures had to be properly contained and registered. Liam had argued for hours about leaving Brutus on Earth. The honey badger wasn't just a pet. After the wildlife center closed down, Brutus had nowhere to go, and Liam's mother, being a wildlife biologist, had the permits to take him in. They'd bonded over 2 years of living together. Brutus slept at the foot of Liam's bed, followed him around the house, and had a surprisingly gentle way of taking treats from his fingers. Of course, Brutus also had another side. Last summer, a neighbor's dog had jumped their fence and gone after their chickens. Brutus had launched himself at the dog without hesitation, and it took Liam 10 minutes to convince him to let go. The dog survived with some puncture wounds and a very traumatized owner who never let it run loose again. "The delegation is approaching," Ambassador David Rodriguez said, which was the formal way Liam's father announced things now. 3 weeks ago, he'd just been dad. Now he was Earth's official representative to the Galactic Council, whatever that meant. The doors opened with a hiss that made Liam jump. He'd never get used to doors that slid into walls instead of swinging on hinges. 3 aliens walked through, and Liam had to force himself not to stare. The Vryn looked like someone had crossed a lizard with a bear and then stretched it to nearly 3 meters tall. Their scales shimmered with dark purple and black patterns, and their eyes were positioned on the sides of their heads like prey animals. Except these definitely weren't prey. Their claws clicked on the metal floor with each step, and the lead Vryn had scars across his snout that suggested he'd been in serious fights. "Ambassador Rodriguez," the lead Vryn said in perfect English, though his voice sounded like gravel being crushed. "I am High Commander Talax. Welcome to Harmony's Light." The formal greetings took forever, lots of bowing and exchanging of prepared statements that Liam had heard his parents rehearse 100 times. He stood quietly, trying to look diplomatic, which mostly meant not picking at the uncomfortable seam on his sleeve. Then Talax's eyes fixed on Brutus's carrier. "You brought a creature," Talax said, leaning down to peer through the mesh window. Brutus stared back, unimpressed. "This is your companion animal?" "Yes," Sophie explained. "This is Brutus. He's a honey badger native to Earth. Very intelligent and quite docile when properly cared for." Talax made a sound that might have been laughing. The 2 Vryn behind him definitely were. Their whole bodies shook with it. "Docile," Talax repeated. "Your species keeps predators as pets? How quaint. On civilized worlds, we either domesticate herd animals or engineer battle beasts for proper purposes. We don't pretend killers are friends." Liam felt his jaw clench. Brutus wasn't pretending anything. He was family. "Many Earth species form genuine bonds with humans," David said carefully. "Our relationship with animals is based on mutual trust and affection." "Mutual trust," one of the other Vryn said, still chuckling. "With a creature that small? What could it possibly offer you besides companionship? Does it retrieve your tools?" "Guard your dwelling." "He's my friend," Liam said before he could stop himself. 3 adult faces turned to look at him with various expressions of surprise. He was supposed to stay quiet during diplomatic discussions. And he's tougher than he looks. Talax studied Liam for a long moment, then made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Earth is listed as a Class 9 death world in our databases. High gravity, aggressive microbial life, extreme weather variations. Yet you claim this tiny creature is formidable?" He looked back at Brutus. "It barely masses 10 kilograms. 15, Liam corrected. He's been gaining weight." 15 kilograms of terror," Talax said, and the other Vryn laughed again. Forgive my amusement, young human, but we have battle beasts that mass 300 kilograms and can tear through armored plating. Your pet is, how do you say, cute? Brutus chose that moment to yawn, showing off his impressive teeth. For a creature that ate mostly insects and small prey, he had a bite that could crack bone. Liam had seen him crunch through a cow femur once like it was a pretzel stick. Your quarters are prepared, Talek said, straightening up.
Keep your pet contained during your stay.
We wouldn't want it getting frightened and hiding somewhere in the ship. These vessels are quite large, and small creatures can get lost. The dismissal was clear. Another Vryn appeared to escort them through endless corridors. Liam carried Brutus's carrier while his parents walked ahead, talking in low voices about the meeting. He could tell they were worried. The Vryn weren't taking humanity seriously. Their assigned quarters were bigger than Liam's entire bedroom back home. The walls were made of some smooth material that seemed to glow faintly, and the furniture adjusted itself when they sat down. A whole section had been converted into a habitat for Brutus, with proper ventilation and even some logs for climbing. Well, Sophie said after they'd done a security sweep with equipment Earth's government had provided, that could have gone worse. They think we're primitives, David muttered, loosening his formal robes. Keeping pets, bringing children to diplomatic meetings. Coming from a death world we're probably too stupid to have evolved on naturally. Liam opened Brutus's carrier. The honey badger waddled out, sniffed around the new space with great interest, then promptly climbed into Liam's lap and demanded ear scratches. Let them underestimate us, Sophie said quietly, watching Brutus with thoughtful eyes. Sometimes that's an advantage. Through the walls they could hear the sounds of the massive ship around them. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species all living and working together. Humanity's first real chance to join something bigger. Liam scratched behind Brutus's ears and felt the honey badger relax against him. Tomorrow they'd start formal negotiations. Tonight they'd rest. He had no idea that in 72 hours Brutus would become the most famous animal in the galaxy, and the Vryn would learn a very hard lesson about underestimating Earth creatures. Dreth had been assigned to security detail on the diplomatic wing for 3 cycles now, and he was bored out of his mind. Nothing ever happened. Diplomats talked, ate, slept, and talked some more. The highlight of his week had been watching some Peltharian ambassador get drunk on fermented plant matter and try to sing their mating songs. But these humans were even more boring than usual. They barely left their quarters except for scheduled meetings. They ate their meals quietly. They didn't even argue with each other in ways that security sensors could pick up. The only interesting thing was that weird creature they'd brought. You're actually going to do it? His clutchmate Vorn asked, watching Dreth check his personal recording device. High Commander Talek told everyone in the security briefing that Earth creatures are weak, Dreth said. I'm just gathering evidence to support his assessment. Besides, the humans are at dinner right now. Perfect timing. The third member of their group, an older soldier named Kess, shook her head. This seems unwise. The diplomatic protocols clearly state that personal quarters are off limits. We're security, Dreth countered. We're supposed to inspect all potential threats. What if that animal is carrying diseases? What if it's actually some kind of biological weapon disguised as a pet? It was a flimsy excuse, and they all knew it. But Vorn grinned, and Kess eventually shrugged. They were all curious. An Earth creature from a Class 9 death world kept as a companion animal? The entire concept was absurd enough to be interesting. The human quarters weren't even locked. Apparently they trusted station security completely. Dreth felt a small twinge of guilt as they entered, but pushed it aside. They wouldn't touch anything else. Just a quick look at the creature, some footage for the security team to laugh at, and they'd leave. The habitat section took up the far corner of the living space. Dreth approached slowly, recording device active. Through the transparent panels, he could see the honey badger sprawled on its back, all 4 paws in the air, apparently deep in sleep. That's it? Vorn said, disappointed. It looks like a fur-covered slug. Barely bigger than a ration pack, Kess added. And they were worried about it getting lost in the ship? It would take weeks to waddle anywhere on those stubby legs. Dreth zoomed in with his recorder. The creature had a distinctive black and white pattern, with a stocky body and small ears. Its paws showed small claws, nothing like the combat talons their own battle beasts sported. The face was almost comical, with a blunt snout and whiskers that twitched as it slept. I'm going to get closer footage, Dreth decided, finding the habitat's access panel. Command will want detailed scans. Maybe don't, Kess suggested, but she didn't sound convincing. She was watching with as much interest as anyone. The door slid open with barely a whisper. Dreth stepped inside, keeping his movements slow and careful. The creature continued sleeping. He knelt down about 2 meters away and adjusted his recording angle. Humanity's fearsome companion, he narrated quietly for the recording. Observe the aggressive sleeping posture. Note the dangerous snoring sounds. Clearly, this is a predator of the highest caliber. Vorn snickered from the doorway. The honey badger's eye opened. Just one eye at first, fixing on Dreth with an intensity that made him pause. Then the other eye opened. The creature didn't move otherwise, just watched him with what seemed like calculation. "It's awake," Dreth said, keeping his voice steady, still not moving. Probably trained to be passive around strangers. He stood up and moved closer, reaching out toward the animal. He wanted footage of himself actually touching an earth creature. The bragging rights alone would be worth it. "Dreth, seriously, maybe don't," Kess said, her tone sharper now. "It's fine. It's a pet. The human child handles it constantly." His hand was half a meter away when Brutus moved. Later, Dreth would try to describe it to the medical staff. He'd fail completely. One moment the honey badger was lying still. The next moment teeth were buried in his forearm with a pressure that made his bones creak. He screamed and tried to pull back, but the creature's grip was absolute. "Get it off!" Dreth yelled, stumbling backward. Brutus came with him, not letting go, his body thrashing and twisting. Dreth crashed into a furniture unit, and the honey badger used the momentum to climb higher up his arm, going for his shoulder. Vorn rushed in and tried to grab Brutus, which was exactly the wrong move. The honey badger released Dreth's arm and immediately latched onto Vorn's hand with the same crushing bite. Vorn howled and swung his arm, trying to shake the creature loose. Brutus held on, his claws digging in for additional grip. Kess pulled her stun baton and moved in, trying to find an opening. Brutus saw her coming. He released Vorn and hit the ground running, but instead of fleeing, he went straight at Kess. She barely got her baton up before 15 kilograms of concentrated fury crashed into her shins. The honey badger's teeth found the gap in her armor plating. Kess went down hard and Brutus was already moving again, heading for the door. "Seal it," Dreth shouted, clutching his bleeding arm. But Brutus was faster. He squeezed through the gap with liquid ease and disappeared into the corridor. Alarms started blaring immediately. Automated systems detected the biometric distress signals from all 3 security officers. Red lights flashed along the ceiling panels. "Security breach in diplomatic wing," a synthetic voice announced over the ship's communication system. "Unidentified creature at large. All personnel maintain alert status." Dreth leaned against the wall, watching his blood drip onto the pristine floor. His arm felt like it was on fire. Vorn was cradling his hand, whimpering. Kess had managed to sit up, but her leg was in bad shape. "That," Kess said through gritted teeth, "was not cute." Boots pounded in the corridor outside. Security response teams were mobilizing. Dreth could hear High Commander Talax's voice over the comms, demanding status reports and explanations. This was bad. This was really, really bad. "How do we explain this?" Vorn asked. "We don't," Dreth said. "We went into secured quarters without authorization and provoked an animal that was contained and peaceful. We're going to be cleaning waste recycling units for the next 6 cycles. If we survive explaining it to Talax," Kess added darkly. Somewhere in the ship, Brutus was loose. And based on the growing number of alarmed voices over the comms, security was discovering that finding one small Earth creature in a vessel designed for beings 3 times larger was going to be much harder than anyone expected. Dreth looked at his mangled arm and had a terrible thought. If this was what a docile Earth pet could do when annoyed, what were their actual soldiers capable of? High Commander Talax stared at the security feed in disbelief. 12 of his best soldiers, armed with stun weapons and containment nets, had just retreated from a maintenance junction after encountering the Earth creature. 3 of them needed medical attention. One had actually climbed up the wall in panic, forgetting they were wearing 70 kilograms of combat armor. "Explain this to me again," he said slowly, his claws digging into the tactical display table. "A single animal, 15 kilograms. No armor, no weapons, no enhancements. And it has incapacitated 16 security personnel in the last hour?" "17 now, Commander," his tactical officer reported. "Team 6 just reported contact in ventilation shaft 9. 2 injuries before target escaped through a duct we thought was too small for entry." "How is it moving so fast?" Talax demanded. Our scans show it has short legs and a body designed for ground movement, not climbing or rapid pursuit. The creature appears to be extremely flexible, Commander. Its bone structure allows it to compress and squeeze through openings we wouldn't expect, and it's using the ship's infrastructure against us. Every time we corner it in a corridor, it finds a vent or access panel. On the main display, multiple camera feeds showed security teams moving through different sections of the ship. Some were setting up containment barriers. Others were trying to track the creature's heat signature through the walls. All of them looked nervous. "This is unacceptable," Talix growled. "Deploy the battle beasts. Let's see how this Earth pet handles real predators." His tactical officer hesitated. "Commander, the humans have requested an audience. They say they can retrieve their animal peacefully if we allow the child to search for it." "Absolutely not. This creature has proven itself hostile. We will handle this through proper security protocols." He turned to the communication station, release 3 Class B trackers into the maintenance levels, and transmit to all sections that the Earth creature is to be treated as a Category 3 threat. The classification made his officers exchange glances. Category 3 meant potentially lethal force authorized. For a pet, the entire situation was humiliating. In the human quarters, Liam paced back and forth while his parents argued with diplomatic overseer Mira through the communication panel. "He's scared and confused," Liam insisted, not for the first time. "Brutus doesn't understand where he is or why strange aliens keep attacking him. If you just let me go find him, I can calm him down." "The decision has been made." Mira's voice came through, sounding tired. "High Commander Talix believes allowing a human child into active security zones would be irresponsible. Their battle beasts are trained for this exact situation." Sophie gripped Liam's shoulder. "What battle beasts?" "You're sending engineered predators after Brutus? Standard containment protocol for aggressive fauna. I assure you they're trained to capture, not kill." But Mira didn't sound entirely confident. David moved closer to the screen. "Overseer Mira, I urge you to reconsider. You don't understand what honey badgers are. They don't back down from anything. If your creatures attack him, he's going to fight back with everything he has. Your concern is noted, Ambassador. Now please remain in your quarters until the situation is resolved." The screen went dark. Liam felt sick to his stomach. He knew exactly what Brutus was doing out there, defending himself. Every instinct the honey badger had was screaming at him to fight or hide, and Brutus had never been good at hiding. "We have to do something," Liam said. "We're locked in," David replied, gesturing at the door. "There are guards posted outside. Even if we could get past them, we have no idea where Brutus is in this ship." Sophie was already at her datapad, scrolling through files. "I'm sending the Council every piece of documentation we have on honey badger behavior, combat capabilities, and threat responses. If they won't listen to warnings, maybe hard data will convince them." On the security feeds that Talix was monitoring, 3 massive shapes moved through the maintenance tunnels. The battle beasts were each easily 200 kilograms of muscle, scales, and teeth. They'd been engineered over generations to track and corner dangerous fauna. Their neural implants kept them focused and obedient. "Trackers have picked up the scent," the tactical officer reported. "Converging on Junction 47, Level 12. Talix watched the feeds intently. This would end it. The Earth creature would be cornered, sedated, and contained. Then he'd have a very serious discussion with the humans about proper animal control. The 3 battle beasts reached the junction from different angles, their heads swiveling as they locked onto their target. The lead tracker, a creature named Ripper according to its file, moved forward with mechanical precision. Then Brutus came around the corner. The honey badger saw the 3 massive creatures and made a sound that the audio pickups struggled to capture. It was part growl, part scream, and entirely defiant. Instead of running, Brutus charged straight at Ripper. "What is it doing?" someone on the command deck muttered. Ripper lunged with practiced efficiency, jaws opening to deliver a stunning bite. Brutus twisted in midair with impossible flexibility, and suddenly he was on top of Ripper's head, claws digging into scales, teeth seeking the vulnerable spots behind the beast's skull plating. Ripper thrashed, slamming against the walls. Brutus held on like he was welded in place. The other 2 battle beasts moved in to assist, but the narrow junction worked against them. They got in each other's way while Brutus continued his assault, biting and clawing with relentless energy. "Pull them back," Talix ordered, his voice hollow. "Pull them back now." The neural commands went out, and the battle beasts began retreating. Ripper had visible damage to his armor plating. One of the others was bleeding from a gash across its snout. The third had gotten its leg caught in some equipment while trying to escape. Brutus didn't pursue. He stood in the middle of the junction, sides heaving, blood on his muzzle that definitely wasn't his own. Then he turned and disappeared back into the ventilation system. The command deck was silent. "Get me the human ambassador," Talax said quietly. "Now." His tactical officer worked the communications panel. "Commander, we're also getting reports from other sections. The creature has damaged several control nodes during its movement through the maintenance areas. Nothing critical yet, but environmental systems are showing anomalies in 3 sectors. How much damage can one small animal do?" Talax wondered aloud. As if in answer, the lights in the command center flickered, just for a moment, but enough to make everyone freeze. "Temperature regulation is offline in the diplomatic wing," someone reported, "and the artificial gravity generators are showing fluctuations on levels 10 through 15. Talax looked at the map of his ship, seeing the tracking data that showed everywhere the Earth creature had been. The pattern was random, chaotic. Brutus wasn't trying to sabotage anything. He was just fleeing in panic through whatever routes he could find. But the result was the same. Millions of credits in damage, dozens of injured personnel, his own battle beast defeated, and somewhere in his ship, one terrified animal that refused to give up. For the first time since this incident began, Talax wondered if humanity had been playing down just how dangerous their world really was. The sedative gas flooded into the armory section in thick yellow clouds. Talax watched the monitors with grim satisfaction. The Earth creature had made its way into the most secure part of the ship, probably by accident. Now they had it trapped. The gas was designed to knock out creatures 5 times larger than the honey badger. It would be unconscious in seconds. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. "Why is it still moving?" Talax demanded. On the screen, Brutus stumbled through the gas, clearly affected but not dropping. He shook his head repeatedly, sneezed violently, then kept going. His movements were slower, less coordinated, but he was still conscious. "Increase concentration," Talax ordered. "Commander, we're already at maximum safe levels. Any higher, and we risk damaging the equipment stored in there." "I don't care about equipment." "Stop that creature!" The gas thickened until the cameras could barely see through it. Brutus wobbled, sat down hard, then stood up again with visible effort. He was fighting the sedative with pure, stubborn will. "This is impossible," the tactical officer whispered. "That gas should have dropped him immediately." Sophie's voice crackled over the communication channel. "I tried to tell you. Honey badgers have incredibly efficient metabolisms. They evolved to handle massive doses of venom from snakes and bees. Your sedative is just another toxin to process." In the human quarters, Liam had stopped pacing. He stood perfectly still, listening to the comms chatter. His mother had managed to tap into the security feeds using her scientific clearance codes. It was probably illegal, but none of them cared anymore. "He's suffering," Liam said quietly. "You're poisoning him, and he doesn't understand why." David put his hand on his son's shoulder. "I know, buddy, but there's nothing we can do right now." "Yes, there is." Before either parent could react, Liam was at the door. He'd been watching the guards through the small window, tracking their patrol patterns. There was a 30-second gap when they both moved to check the other end of the corridor. "Liam, no." Sophie lunged for him, but he was already through the door. The corridors were chaos, security teams rushing back and forth, medical staff transporting injured personnel, officers shouting orders into communicators. A 12-year-old human in civilian clothes barely registered as important. Liam ran. He'd memorized the ship's layout from the orientation materials they'd been given. Level 12 was 3 floors down. The armory section was in the secure wing. He just had to get there before they killed Brutus. An alarm started blaring specifically for him. His parents must have reported him missing. Now he had even less time. "Stop right there." A Vryn guard stepped into his path, reaching for him. Liam ducked under the grasping claws and kept running. His smaller size was an advantage in the corridors designed for 3-meter-tall aliens. He squeezed between equipment carts and slid under a maintenance barrier. Behind him, his parents' voices joined the chorus on the communication system. Sophie was providing his exact location from the security feeds. David was demanding that no one harm his son. Diplomatic Overseer Mira's voice cut through the noise. "All units, the human child is headed toward the armory section. Intercept, but do not use force. I repeat, Do not use force on the human child. Liam reached the lift system and frantically pushed the button. The door opened immediately and he jumped inside, slamming his hand on the level 12 control. As the doors closed, he saw 3 guards sprinting down the corridor toward him. The lift descended. Liam's heart hammered in his chest. He had no plan beyond finding Brutus. No idea what he'd do when he got there. But he couldn't just let them kill his friend. The doors opened on level 12 and Liam nearly ran into High Commander Talax himself. The massive Vryn commander stared down at him in shock. "How did you get here?" "I'm getting Brutus," Liam said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You need to let me through." "Absolutely not. Return to your quarters immediately." Talax reached for him. Liam dodged and yelled at the top of his lungs. "Brutus, here, boy." "Brutus!" His voice echoed through the corridor. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every screen in the security station lit up with the same image. Brutus standing in the center of the armory section, his head raised. The honey badger's ears had perked up at the sound of Liam's voice. "He can hear you," Sophie said over the comms, her voice breaking. "Liam, keep calling him." "Brutus, come here." "It's okay, come to me." On the screens, Brutus started moving, not randomly fleeing anymore. He was heading toward Liam's voice with purpose. "Seal that section," Talax ordered, but diplomatic overseer Mira's voice overrode him. "Belay that order. Let the animal reach the boy. This is my ship, and this is a diplomatic incident that has already gone too far," Mira snapped back. "Your unauthorized gas attack on a diplomatic party's property has been recorded. Your guard's illegal entry into secured quarters started this entire situation. Stand down, Talax, or I'll have you removed from command." The silence that followed was deadly. Finally, Talax stepped aside. Liam ran down the corridor, following the sounds of Brutus moving through the walls. He could hear the honey badger's claws scraping on metal, the huffing breath as Brutus pushed through his exhaustion. A vent panel burst open ahead of him. Brutus half fell out of the opening, landing hard on the deck. He was covered in scratches, one ear was bleeding, and his fur was matted with various substances from his journey through the ship's infrastructure. "Brutus!" Liam dropped to his knees and the honey badger launched himself into the boy's arms. For several seconds, they just held each other. Brutus made small whimpering sounds and buried his face against Liam's chest. His whole body shook with stress and exhaustion. "I'm sorry," Liam whispered, checking Brutus for serious injuries. "I'm so sorry. You were so brave." Security teams had arrived, forming a cautious perimeter. Weapons were lowered but ready. Every soldier watched the Earth creature with new respect and visible wariness. Ambassador Rodriguez and Dr. Chen appeared at the end of the corridor, escorted by Mira herself. Sophie's face was streaked with tears. David looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last 2 hours. Liam stood slowly, keeping Brutus cradled against his chest. The honey badger was finally calm, exhausted, and hurt, but safe now. "Check him over," Liam said to his mother. "Please make sure he's okay." Sophie knelt down and began a careful examination while Liam held Brutus steady. The honey badger tolerated it, too tired to protest. Talax approached slowly, his expression unreadable. He stopped 3 meters away, well outside striking distance. "That creature," he said slowly, "defeated 3 battle beasts, incapacitated 27 security personnel, and survived enough sedative to drop a combat transport beast, all while terrified and injured. He's a honey badger," Liam said simply. "They don't know how to give up. And you," Talax continued, looking at Liam, "ran through a secured military vessel, evaded multiple guards, and walked up to your dangerous pet without fear. He's not dangerous to me. He's my friend." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Talax did something unexpected. He placed his clawed hand over his chest in what was apparently a Vryn gesture of respect. "I believe," he said quietly, "that we need to reconsider our assessment of Earth and its inhabitants." The council chamber held representatives from 43 different species, and every single one of them had watched the security footage. 3 times. Some species had requested additional angles. Others had asked for biological scans of the honey badger. A few had simply sat in stunned silence. Liam stood at the front of the chamber with his parents, trying not to fidget in his formal clothes. Brutus was back in his habitat, sleeping under medical supervision. The ship's doctors had found surprisingly few serious injuries despite the honey badger's extensive combat. Mostly superficial cuts, some bruising, and severe exhaustion. The Vryn security personnel had not fared as well. 27 injured, though all would recover. The battle beast needed extensive repairs to their armor plating, and the ship itself had taken 3 million credits in damage from one small animal's panicked flight through its infrastructure. Ambassador Rodriguez, diplomatic overseer Mira began. The Council owes humanity an apology. The unauthorized entry into your quarters and the subsequent escalation were clear violations of diplomatic protocol. We accept the apology, David said formally. However, we believe this incident has revealed some fundamental misunderstandings that need to be addressed. A representative from the Peltharian delegation spoke up. With respect, Ambassador, the misunderstanding appears to be on our part. We reviewed Earth's classification as a Class 9 death world. We read the atmospheric composition, gravity levels, and pathogen diversity, but we failed to understand what it means to evolve in such an environment. Sophie stepped forward.
May I present some context?
At Mira's nod, she activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Our planet is ancient and fiercely competitive, Sophie began. Nearly every ecological niche is occupied by something trying to survive. Our gravity is high by galactic standards. Our atmospheric oxygen percentage supports rapid metabolisms. Our weather systems are violent and unpredictable. She changed the display to show various Earth animals: lions, bears, wolves, crocodiles, sharks, each one with detailed biological specifications. These are Earth predators. All of them have killed humans at various points in our history. And we've domesticated or formed working relationships with most of them, not through genetic modification or neural implants, but through mutual trust and social bonding. A chittering species in the back spoke through translation devices.
How is this possible?
Our research shows that predator species are inherently aggressive and territorial. They cannot be trusted without control mechanisms. They can't be controlled, David corrected. But they can be partnered with. Humans evolved as social pack animals. We form bonds with other species in ways that apparently seem unusual to the galactic community. Sophie brought up images of humans with dogs, cats, horses, even birds of prey. These relationships are built on respect, not dominance. We provide food, shelter, and protection. They provide companionship, assistance, and yes, sometimes protection in return. The honey badger. A deep voice rumbled from the Vryn section. High Commander Talax stood looking uncomfortable but determined. I have reviewed all available data on this species. They are known on Earth for their fearlessness and tenacity. They regularly fight animals many times their size. They have immunity to most venoms. Their jaw strength is disproportionate to their body mass. He paused, and when he continued, his voice was quieter. According to Earth's own wildlife documentation, honey badgers have driven leopards away from kills. They have survived attacks from lions. They have raided beehives despite thousands of stings that would kill most creatures, and this is considered a relatively common Earth animal. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Your battle beasts, Sophie said gently, were engineered for specific combat scenarios and controlled environments. Brutus was shaped by millions of years of evolution in an environment that actively tried to kill him every single day. There's a difference, Liam found his voice, and he's not even that tough compared to some Earth animals. We have creatures in our oceans that could crush your battle beasts. We have insects that can lift 50 times their own weight. We have birds that can spot prey from 3 kilometers away. Yet you keep them as pets, Mira said, sounding fascinated rather than mocking. Why? Because they're worth knowing, Liam said simply. Brutus is smart and funny and loyal. He remembers when I'm sad and tries to cheer me up by bringing me his favorite toy. He gets excited when I come home from school. He's not just a predator. He's family. Another representative spoke up, this one from a species that looked like floating crystalline structures. This explains much about human diplomatic approaches. Your entire interaction strategy is based on forming bonds rather than establishing hierarchy. David nodded. We prefer cooperation to domination. It served us well on Earth despite our planet's dangers, or perhaps because of them. When everything around you is trying to survive, you learn that working together is more effective than fighting alone. But you do fight, Talax pointed out. Your species has extensive military history. Wars, conflicts, territorial disputes. We're not perfect, David admitted. We fight among ourselves sometimes, but we're trying to get better. And when we're faced with external threats, we tend to unite quickly. It's another survival trait. Mira brought up new data on her display. The Council has been reviewing Earth's potential membership for 3 months. After this incident, we need to reassess not just your military capabilities, but your entire approach to interspecies relationships. She looked directly at the human delegation. Several council members have expressed concern that if your common pets are this formidable, your actual military forces must be terrifying. Our soldiers are trained professionals, David said carefully. But they're also citizens first. Humans with families, hopes, and dreams. We don't believe in creating weapons out of living beings. We believe in teaching people to defend what they love. Like the boy defending his companion, Talek said. And this time there was respect in his voice. He ran through a military vessel, evaded trained guards, and put himself between his friend and danger without hesitation. That's what humans do, Sophie said. We protect our pack. Whether that pack is family, friends, or a honey badger we rescued from a wildlife center. Another hour of discussion followed. Questions about Earth's biodiversity, human psychology, social structures, and defensive capabilities. The humans answered honestly, neither exaggerating their strengths nor hiding their weaknesses. Finally, Mira called for a recess. The representatives filed out, talking among themselves in dozens of languages. The humans were escorted to a private waiting room. That went better than expected, David said, loosening his collar. They're afraid of us, Liam observed. Some are, Sophie agreed, but others are intrigued. Fear can become respect if handled properly. Liam thought about Brutus sleeping peacefully under medical care. The honey badger had no idea he'd just changed humanity's relationship with the galaxy. He was probably dreaming about treats and belly rubs. Do you think they'll accept us? Liam asked. David smiled. After today? I think they'd be crazy not to. We've just proven that humans can turn one of Earth's toughest predators into a loving companion. That's the kind of species the galaxy needs. Through the window they could see the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, spinning along with its incredible diversity of life. Soon the galaxy would understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their military might. It was their ability to make friends with anything, even creatures that could tear apart a warship. 3 months had passed since what the galactic news networks were calling the honey badger incident. Liam watched the Earth grow larger in the viewing port as the shuttle descended through the atmosphere. After weeks of negotiations and cultural exchanges aboard Harmony's Light, they were finally going home. Behind him, sitting in specially designed seats, were the first group of alien ambassadors to visit Earth. 6 species had volunteered, including, surprisingly, a Vryn representative. Not Talek's, though. The High Commander had been reassigned to training duties where he was apparently revolutionizing Vryn military doctrine, based on lessons learned from one small Earth animal. Is it always so blue? Asked Ambassador Frel, a Peltharian whose people came from a desert world. Her voice box translated her chirping into standard English. 70% ocean coverage, Sophie explained. She'd been appointed as the primary xenobiological liaison, responsible for making sure their visitors understood Earth's unique dangers. The atmospheric moisture content is high, and weather patterns can be intense. We'll be landing in a temperate zone to ease the transition. And the gravity? Asked the Vryn representative, a younger soldier named Kren. He'd watched the security footage of Brutus at least 100 times, and had specifically requested to meet the honey badger in person. You'll feel it immediately, David warned. Everything on Earth evolved to handle it, but for most galactic species, you'll need assistance until your bodies adjust. We've prepared mobility supports and rest areas. The shuttle touched down at a private facility outside Geneva. Security was tight, but the crowds outside the fence line were massive. Humanity had finally been told about first contact, and everyone wanted to see the aliens. Liam carried Brutus's travel container carefully down the ramp. The honey badger had been remarkably patient during the journey, though he'd made his opinion clear about space travel with several pointed growls. Now he was quiet, probably smelling the familiar Earth air through the container's vents. The ambassadors descended slowly, some with assistance. Earth's gravity hit them immediately. Frel's legs wobbled and she grabbed onto a support rail. Kren managed better, his species being naturally heavier built, but even he moved carefully. This is standard for you? Frel asked, sounding amazed. You live in this constantly? Since birth, Sophie said. Your bodies will adapt somewhat, but I won't lie, it's going to be challenging for the first few weeks. They moved into the facility, where a presentation room had been prepared. But before the formal briefings, Liam had a promise to keep. "Kren," he called out. The Vryn soldier turned. "Want to meet Brutus properly?" In a secure outdoor area, Liam opened the carrier. Brutus waddled out, sniffed the grass, and immediately began rolling in it with obvious joy. Being back on Earth meant everything to him. Kren approached slowly, keeping his movements careful and non-threatening. He'd studied honey badger behavior extensively over the past 3 months. "Hello, Brutus," Kren said softly. "I apologize for my species' behavior. Your strength taught us an important lesson." Brutus looked up at the massive Vryn soldier and huffed. Then, to everyone's surprise, he walked over and sniffed Kren's boots. Finding them acceptable, apparently, the honey badger sat down and began grooming himself. "He's not afraid," Kren observed. "He's been around aliens for months now," Liam explained. "You're not scary to him anymore. Just another weird-looking friend." Over the next days, the ambassadors experienced Earth firsthand. They visited nature preserves, met various animals, and slowly began understanding what a death world really meant. Frel nearly fainted when she saw a grizzly bear at a wildlife sanctuary. "That's twice the size of our largest predators, and you're telling me they sometimes wander into your settlements?" "We've learned to coexist," the sanctuary director explained. "Respect their space, secure your food, don't threaten their young. Most bears would rather avoid humans." "Most?" Frel repeated weakly. The swimming pool demonstration was particularly enlightening. They watched human children playing in the water, diving, swimming underwater for extended periods. "Your species is semi-aquatic?" asked Ambassador Torin, whose people came from a low-moisture world. "We can adapt to water," Sophie explained. "Humans are endurance specialists. We can run for hours, swim for miles, climb vertical surfaces, and survive in extreme temperatures. We're not the best at any one thing, but we're good at everything." "Generalists," Kren said thoughtfully, "shaped by an environment that requires constant adaptation." The visit to a domestic animal shelter was perhaps the most impactful. Rows of kennels held dogs of every size and shape. Some barked excitedly. Others watched the aliens with curious eyes. "These are all rescued," the shelter manager explained. "Animals that lost their homes or were abandoned. We care for them until we can find them new families." "You create entire facilities just to care for homeless animals?" Frel asked. "The resource investment must be enormous." "They're worth it," the manager said simply. "Every animal deserves a chance at a good life." They watched as a family arrived to adopt a large mixed-breed dog. The children were beside themselves with excitement, and the dog seemed equally thrilled, tail wagging so hard his whole body shook. "That animal could easily overpower those children," Torin observed, "yet it shows no aggression." "Because it understands their family now," Liam explained. "That's what humans do. We make family out of everything." On the final day of their visit, the ambassadors gathered in the facility's conference room. Outside, Brutus was playing in his outdoor area, chasing a ball that Liam had thrown for him. "Our assessment is complete," Ambassador Frel announced. "We've experienced Earth's gravity, weather, biodiversity, and most importantly, observed human-animal relationships firsthand." She looked at each of her fellow ambassadors, receiving nods. The Council's preliminary vote was to grant humanity provisional membership. "After this visit, I will be recommending full membership status." David tried to keep his expression neutral, but Liam saw his father's hands shake slightly. "On what basis?" "On the basis that any species capable of forming genuine bonds with their planet's predators possesses exactly the kind of diplomatic flexibility the Council needs," Frel said. "You've shown us that strength doesn't require domination, that respect can be earned rather than forced. These are lessons the galaxy desperately needs," Kren spoke up. "The Vryn military is implementing new training protocols based on human methods. We're teaching our soldiers about restraint, tactical flexibility, and yes, even bonding with their battle beasts rather than simply controlling them. Early results are remarkable." "You're changing your entire approach?" Sophie asked, surprised. "One honey badger defeated 3 of our best battle beasts and 27 soldiers," Kren said bluntly. "Not through superior force, but through adaptability and sheer refusal to give up. If that's what evolution on Earth creates in a common animal, we'd be fools not to learn from it." That evening, Liam sat in the grass with Brutus curled up in his lap. The honey badger was heavier now, well-fed and content. Earth's sunset painted the sky in colors the aliens had remarked on extensively, apparently unusual in the galaxy. You're famous, Liam told Brutus, scratching behind his ears. The entire galaxy knows your name now. Brutus yawned, showing off the teeth that had terrorized a warship. Then he settled deeper into Liam's lap and closed his eyes. Yeah, you don't care about that. Liam laughed softly. You just want dinner and belly rubs. David and Sophie approached, sitting down on either side of their son. The council vote is in 2 weeks, David said. But Frel says it's essentially guaranteed now. Humanity's going to be part of something bigger. Because of Brutus, Liam asked. Because of what Brutus represents, Sophie corrected. He showed them that Earth doesn't produce weapons or victims. We produce survivors who can become friends. That's rare in the galaxy. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began appearing overhead. Somewhere up there, aliens were talking about Earth, reassessing their understanding of humanity, and learning that the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their strength or their technology. It was their ability to look at something fierce and wild and see not a threat to be controlled, but a friend to be trusted. Brutus snored softly, dreaming of whatever honey badgers dream about. Maybe treats, maybe adventures, probably both. And the galaxy would never underestimate Earth pets again.